All right, so now we're going to do a hello world file, and to do this I'm going to create a row below. And we did the alert, and we could also try console logging. And so I'm just going to put the console log code in down here too and see how that goes. So these are just like two separate things we'll do. So we're going to start VS Code. I have VS Code going right here, and I have some sample code here. So I'm just going to rename that, and I'm going to call this 998. Because we're going to look at that at some point. Rename. And so you're seeing that, right? Like I just right-clicked it, and now I renamed it. And so that's been renamed, and close that. And I think I need to dispose of my live server. There we go. And so for this next one, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to just call this 002. And I don't want it there. I want it up at this level. And so let's, come on, move on up, drag it, and drop it. I don't know how to drop it at that level. There we go. I got it at that level. And this one, we're just going to call this, rename this, and I'll add a little bit of description to it. Hello world. And the web doesn't like spaces. Like, just generally speaking, not a good idea to use spaces on the web. So I'm going to do with dashes there. And then in here, I'm going to create a new file. And so this new file will be index.html. And then in there, I'm going to use the image shortcut trick, which we've learned about, which is exclamation point and then press tab, and it like fills everything in for me. And so now if I wanted to create some JavaScript, and this is not the way you should create JavaScript today, but you will see this in the wild. Other people will do this. Old code will have this. Old code will have this. And so if you want to create JavaScript right in your HTML document, you could do that. And you do that between script tags. And so there are script tags, and I'm putting it at the bottom of the document for a reason, because we're going to learn about control flow coming up, and you can Wikipedia control flow, and we'll learn about it coming up just as a brief preview. What control flow is how do computers read code? And they read code from top to bottom sequentially by default until they hit either a loop, right? An iterative control structure where it just loops over code, so like a for loop or something like that. I'm going to keep doing this. And or when it hits conditional logic, right? Conditional control flow, where it's like if this, then that, and then it kind of like, but otherwise it's going top to bottom. And so since JavaScript can, since JavaScript can change and alter an HTML document, right? If you have the JavaScript way up here, the HTML, when a page is loading in your browser, it's going to stop everything when it hits the JavaScript, and it messes up just the way the document loads. And so people would put the script at the bottom, so most of the HTML would load, and then the JavaScript would load at the end. But that could create its own issues too. And so it's just not the best way to do things today. And we're going to see the best way to do stuff coming up. But here we're just, very basic example, and we'll put a little H1 in here, basic example. So we can see that when the page loads. But what we wanted to try was the two pieces of code we already had. And so one of them was alert. And so there you can see alert. And I could do, here is my alert. And so JavaScript all likes to have that little exclamation point after it. And since I haven't coded JavaScript in just like forever, and it's been a long time, man. And I'm just gonna like save this document and see if it automatically adds in, my semicolon, because, and it doesn't. So I'm gonna add my semicolon in. And then we also want to do console.log, and here is my log to the console, right? And then end it with that. And so there's my JavaScript. That should run. I'm going to launch my live server. We saw how to set this up in previous videos. So I'm clicking my go live server, and here is my alert, right? Totally ran, and you saw that alert came up before like this displayed, which is kind of interesting, right? Like just from like, wait, how is that happening? And so you could go in there as we learn the new method and experiment with that and see like if it changes things. And then I'm going to go into my console using the keyboard shortcut. So I use the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-I. And here in my console, it says, here is my log to the console. And so that totally worked. And so we've seen two ways we could write JavaScript code so far. We could go straight to this console and start just entering JavaScript code. We saw that right here, right? So alert, here is another one, right? And we did a variable here and all that, right? So we entered some code there. So we can enter code right here at the console JavaScript code. And then we've also seen that we could do it inline. We could do it inline, right? So, and there's the inline code. And so I'm going to rename this. I'm just going to close it and then rename it once more. And the name I'm going to give on this is inline. And then I'm going to go over to our course document, which is right here. And we learned these tools for doing GitHub. And I just want to show it right here. But here's our workflow in GitHub. So I just want you to have a visual on that. So I'm going to start my git bash. And I'm going to push all this code that I just did. So I'm going to search for bash, right? Bash Windows and bash on Windows. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to switch into my directory. And so I'm going to see where I'm at, right? Right there, I'm there. And I can list to see what's in there. And I want to change into my JS class, which is going to be in my documents, I think. And I can look, and then there it is, and switch into the JS class. And now if I list all, I can see I have that Git repo right there, the hidden folder, and then I also have this new one I created. And so I'm going to do a git, and I don't need to do the git status. I already kind of know the status, but git add -- all. And then I'm going to do a git commit -m, and this one is going to be, I don't know, what's it going to be? Some message, I have to look to see that. Adds inline JS example, okay? And then I'm going to do git push, and so that will all now be up on GitHub for you to download. Cool, that's right, inline JS.